Okay. The first part that I'm going to rebut in Christy Masicki's article, she quotes, "Let's go back 10 years, probably before you were even conscious of the workings of the world. Bill Clinton was president, and his actions actually helped to create the strongest economy in American history." Well, that's not entirely correct. Clinton did not help create the strongest economy in American history. Clinton signed NAFTA and GATT, which was fast-tracked by the elder Bush president, who was his predecessor. As a result, tens of millions of good jobs left for the havens of cheaper labor overseas to third world countries with no worker protection laws, no environmental laws, and no safety laws. As a result. Meanwhile, most of the discarded American workers whose jobs were outsourced and offshored overseas, as well as to the maquilador zone south of the U.S. border in Mexico and places like Ciudad Juarez. These discarded workers were excluded and not absorbed into remaining good jobs or into the few new good jobs that were created. The new jobs that were created, number one, did not compensate for the jobs that were lost. And number two, they failed to include a place for those workers who had been discarded by corporate America like a used Kleenex. Most of these displaced workers were left without the economic security of their paychecks and health benefits at a point in time in their lives when they'd need it the most, their middle-aged years. It is at this stage in life that they're likely to incur health problems, at an age where they can't readily or easily get another good job and start all over after struggling or working their butts off their whole life. Many lost everything they had. Many were impoverished and reduced to the status of welfare parasites, a term, Christy, that you used in your article in describing the poor who have been forced to avail themselves of what little bit remains of our eviscerated safety net. Now, Clinton also threw poor women and children under the bus when he signed the Welfare Reform Act of 1996 into law, which placed a lifetime 5-year limit on single mothers' ability to obtain benefits. The Welfare Reform Act also removed the ability of people without kids who fell into poverty to get any badly needed help. And this was done without any concern or forethought whether America's most socially excluded, marginalized, and economically underprivileged would be welcomed into the workforce and would be hired and afforded opportunities to get jobs that pay at least enough in order to be able to live with a bare minimum amount of dignity in our society. Women are 41% more likely to end up poor than men. And that's irrespective of education level obtained. And this is due in no small measure to age, sex, and appearance or weight discrimination. Male-dominated fields such as construction, tool and die making, and freight management are still pretty much off limits to women. Number one. Number two, men can be high school dropouts with felony records, with drug problems, with drinking problems, and be butt ugly, and still get a chance for a job that pays a living wage with security and benefits. But women are judged solely on their looks because our society is very image oriented, and most of the jobs that are open to women are very image oriented, and therefore women do not enjoy that same unearned privilege and advantage as men, specifically white, rich, or middle class men. Poor women who didn't luck out in the looks or body type department, who might have incurred steep student loan debt to get the college degrees and the educations that were supposed to be the ticket out of poverty, routinely get denied chances for good jobs and passed over for opportunities in favor of thinner, prettier, and younger eye candy. Every time a poor, unemployed, middle-aged woman who wasn't lucky enough to inherit the Barbie gene pool gets sent home poor and empty-handed without a chance for a good job, that translates to dollars that she got unjustly deprived of being able to earn. That translates to being unjustly deprived of being able to work for enough money to afford life's most basic necessities for herself or her children if she has any, or a disabled spouse. But it's not just women who suffer disproportionately in poverty due to discrimination in a rich white male dominated society. People with health problems, people with disabilities, face an unemployment rate of 96%. This is in spite of the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. Now, the reason the unemployment rate for people with medical problems or disabilities is 96% is because of something known as at-will employment laws. States that have at-will clauses in their employment laws basically are giving employers and corporations a free pass to get away with discrimination, to get away with discriminating against the disabled, against people with medical issues, against job seekers over age 40, and against the poor who are in most need of a job, but who are poverty profiled in the hiring process and automatically excluded. At will is backdoor permission to thumb your nose at the Civil Rights Act. Now, the next issue we're going to address is what you're supposed to do in a society when you've been socially and economically excluded, not because of merit, but because of other insidious forms of marginalization. Stay tuned.